Today, folks, we have another huge win regarding the Supreme Court's decision involving the rogue Obama-appointed federal judges. These judges have been making huge decisions that stop President Trump's plans from happening all across the country. The Supreme Court might be stepping in soon. We're also going to show you how the latest presidential polls come out every week, and they prove the big news companies are wrong about Donald Trump being unpopular. His approval ratings are going up again, and I'm going to tell you what's really going on with this. There's another huge story about a leaked group chat on Signal. Was it just random? A coincidence? Well, it came out one day before two important people, Radcliffe and Tulsi Gabbard, had to talk to a special government group called the SSCI. I don't think it's random. Something sneaky is happening here, folks, and we got some more stories from around the country too. But real quick, you're tuning in to the 9/10 podcast, where possession is 9/10 of the law. Go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe. I'm pushing to get my first 1,000 subscribers. Thank you so much. Trump has been in office for 65 days now, and he's moving with blazing speed. He's doing so much that huge newspapers like the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times have created things called Trump trackers to keep up with everything his team is doing. They show every action he's taken and whether or not it's finished, it's still going on, or it's stuck. He's keeping one promise after another. But Trump's just one guy. He can give the orders, but his team has to make it happen. And they're working hard to do that. The problem we're running into isn't Trump's team slowing him down like we saw in his previous presidency. It's judges stepping in right now. There are these huge law firms in Washington, D.C. People call them the Big Three, and they're working for Democrats and rhino Republicans to stop Trump's plans. We saw this last week with Judge Boasberg, who stopped Trump's big plan to deport people by keeping planes from taking off that were carrying out illegal alien gang members. Just one judge can make a decision that stops the whole country's plans. That's what's happening here. Check out the Trump tracker. A lot of the actions Trump is trying to do, the ones that they say are in process or stuck, are being held up by these rogue Obama-appointed judges, working hand in hand with those Democrat-funded law firms. If you don't believe me, listen to this lawyer named Norman Eisen. He's the biggest Democrat lawyer. This is the same guy that tried to help them kick Donald Trump out of his office for the first term. Last night on CNN, he admitted that he's working with these Obama-appointed judges. They are on his team, and he explained his plans.
You're involved in litigation, as you said, against the administration. The president signaled you out by name Friday night in order revoking any secret clearance you may have. What do you make of his claim today that law firms need to, quote, behave?
Anderson, he's losing in court. There have been almost 24 cases that my organization, the State Democracy Defenders Fund, has filed or worked on. We want.
Wow, State Democracy Defenders Fund. I love these evil organizations. They try to make their name sound as good as possible, like the DPRK, Democratic Republic of North Korea, and also the PRC, People's Republic of China. Same thing with this guy over here.
We want an order protecting 6,000 FBI agents from targeting because they worked on January 6th. We got another one locking Elon Musk out of the Treasury Department. 20,000 wrongly fired federal government employees.
Hey, Norm,
we
are
were
you
part
scared
of a
at all?
team protecting them. I see it as Donald Trump being the one who's lashing out, Anderson, because he's losing. And let's not forget that Paul Weiss bent the knee, kissed the ring, crawled on their belly, but Covington and Burling got an action. They got an EO. They did not bow down. Perkins Coie, they went to court. They got Williams and Connolly, one of the best firms in the country. They won court protections. And Anderson, I can tell you this. This is the third time Donald Trump has revoked my security clearance. I think he turns it back on so he can take it away again because he's so angry. But you know what? I won't back down no matter what. I'll just file even more lawsuits.
There you have Norman Eisen. And to me, that is the definition of a slimy rat lawyer right there. Just gonna file more lawsuits. Okay, go ahead, but you know what? That's what you call lawfare, and that does not gonna stand anymore. People are waking up to that kind of stuff, and the American people don't like it. It was shown this last November when Donald Trump was supposed to be so guilty of all these criminal cases, but he won overwhelmingly. People See past the lawfare. If you didn't know it already, the Trump administration is using the Alien Enemies Act on purpose, even after the judge said to stop it and bring it back, because they want to push this fight all the way to the Supreme Court. They're hoping that the Supreme Court will step in and stop this. For weeks, Democrats and the press have been saying this is how democracy is supposed to work, and that it's our system just doing its job. But no, this is a freaking trick, y'all. These activists are using it to mess with our agenda for their reasons. Well, these cases are moving up to the Supreme Court, and yesterday we got a hint about what the court might decide. Supreme Court Justice Kagan, who was picked by Obama nonetheless, is one of the 4 liberal justices on the court. Listen to what she said about this. Check this out.
In recent years, some district courts issued nationwide injunctions, and this happened in the Trump administration, and it has also happened in the Biden administration. So this has no political tilt to it. But some district courts have very quickly issued nationwide injunctions to stop a policy in its tracks, that, something that the president and or Congress has determined to be the national policy, and it just one district court stops it. And then you combine that with the ability of people to forum shop, to go to a particular district court where they think that will be the result. And you look at it, something like that, and think, that can't be right. That one district court, whether it's in the Trump years, people used to go to the Northern District of California, and in the Biden years, they go to Texas. And it just can't be right that one district judge can stop a nationwide policy in its tracks and leave it stopped for the years that it takes to go through normal process.
So if Kagan feels this way, I can only guess how the conservative justices feel, y'all. And then now over to CNN. They got a wake-up call this morning when their data guy Harry Enton explained the newest presidential poll numbers. Seems a story that CNN and all the other media have been pushing about how much people dislike Donald Trump and how Americans are just rejecting his plans, not holding up. Well, we've learned that it's actually the opposite. Come check this out. It's glorious.
All right, let's start with this. Historically, you talk about Trump being sort of unpopular. What are the numbers showing us?
Yeah, I think sometimes it's important to do a little bit of reality check and take a little different spin at the numbers. I'm going to do that right here because all we talk about is how unpopular Donald Trump is. But in reality, he's basically more popular than he was at any point in term number 1 and more popular than he was when he won election back in November of 2024. What are we talking about? His net favorable rating right now comes in at -4 points. Compare that to where he was when he won in November of 2024 when he was at -7 points, or March of 2017 when he was at -10 points. So when you compare Trump against himself, he's actually closer to the apex than he is to the bottom of the trough. And of course, that's so important because Donald Trump, historically speaking, has had his numbers underestimated. So I think it's very important to compare him to himself to understand he's actually more popular now than he was when he won, or certainly where he was at this point back in his first term. The bottom line is Trump is more towards the ceiling than he is towards the floor.
So when you do that, it makes my knees hurt. So when you look at this compared to sort of historically, what does it tell you about the percentage of folks that think the country itself, with him at the helm, is on the right track?
This, I think, is rather important because, again, if the polls have historically underestimated Donald Trump, what is a metric that might get at understanding at how popular he may actually be? So let's take a look at the percentage of the country who say that we're on the right track. It's actually a very high percentage when you compare it to some historical numbers. What are we talking about? According to Marist, 45% say that we're on the right track. That's the second highest that Marist has measured since 2009. How about NBC News? 44%. That's the highest since 2004. Wow. The bottom line is the percentage of Americans who say we're on the right track is through the roof. And if you were to compare it to when presidents have historically been reelected, of course, Trump is not constitutionally eligible to run for re-election, but I think it sort of puts it in perspective. 42% of the country says the country is on the right track when the incumbent party is re-elected. And also keep in mind, back when Kamala Harris lost and the Democrats were turned out of power, only about 27 to 28% of the country said the country is on the right track. The bottom line is right now, a much higher percentage of the country says we're on the right track. And finally, Sarah Seidner, I want to put it all in the congressional generic ballot.
What about Congress?
What about Congress? Because those are the folks who are up in 2026. And take a look here. The Dems versus the Republicans on the generic congressional ballot. Back in November of 2020, when Democrats won, it was +5 Democrats. Tied in November of 2022, +1 in November of 2024 when Republicans maintain control. And then you look at March of 2025. This number looks a lot more like 2022 or 2024 when Republicans won control of Congress. The bottom line is, yes, Donald Trump's approval rating is lower than compared to a lot of his predecessors, but it's higher when compared to himself. A lot of folks say the country's on the right track, and the generic congressional ballot looks a heck of a lot more like when Republicans win than when Democrats win.
Hey, yo, I swear, whenever this dude is on CNN, he brings some good news, some really good news, and I freaking love this guy. I love how honest he is, first of all, even though he works at CNN, and I love the reactions of the hosts when he gives them the numbers because their faces are just seething the entire time. It's hilarious. I love this dude. Trump's approval ratings are through the roof now, higher than it's ever been in his first term. He's at the top of his game in popularity as he starts his second term. There's also this right track, wrong track question, which isn't really about the president. It's more of a general thing people answer about the direction of the country. So people tend to be more honest with it. And in just 2 months, from January 2025, when Biden left office, to last week, March 20th, we've seen the biggest 2-month jump ever in how people feel about the country's direction. 2 months ago, only 27% of the people thought we were on the right track. Now it's over 45% on average, according to the polls. Some, like Emerson, even say 50%. We haven't seen that in 50 years. And I gotta say, with Trump in charge, I agree with that. I think we're going in the right direction myself. We're dealing with our national debt, making government smaller, and bringing back free speech, y'all. No more cancel culture. Plus, we're rebuilding our manufacturing. We're done letting shady-ass politicians sell out our country, sending our jobs overseas. We finally have America first, y'all. CIA Director John Ratcliffe and Tulsi Gabbard are both facing tough questions from the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, one of the strongest groups in Congress. A super biased reporter in Washington, D.C. named Jeff Goldberg from The Atlantic supposedly got a link to join a Signal group chat with top cabinet members about attacking Yemen. And since the other day, all the media has been going nuts about it, with headlines saying Trump's administration officials were texting secret war plans to a journalist. I honestly feel like they finally got us and that MAGA is now done for. Let me go ahead and clear up a couple things. They use Signal, which is an authorized communications app at the CIA. And this guy, Jeffrey Goldberg, he's not really a journalist. He's from The Atlantic, y'all, which is pretty much the mouthpiece for the deep state. He was the reporter behind the Suckers and Losers hoax, as well as multiple other Trump hoaxes during his first term. Make no mistake, this is a coordinated attack, folks. That's how these things happen. This is an active op against the Trump administration. This isn't some random link, y'all. I mean, think about it. They planned the release of this story one day before Tulsi and Radcliffe were scheduled to sit before the SSCI. They're trying to turn cabinet members against each other. Watch what happened at the hearing. Disclaimer, this is what desperation looks like, y'all. Check it out.
I want to get a little more information about this. Director Gabbard, did you participate in the group chat with Secretary of Defense and other Trump senior officials discussing the Yemen war plans?
Senator, I don't want to get into this.
Were you on? You're not going to be willing to address. So you're not, you denying that? Will you answer my question, ma'am? You were not TG on this group chat?
I'm not going to get into the specifics
so you
of the
refuse to acknowledge whether you were on this group chat?
Senator, I'm not going to get into the
Why aren't you going to get into the specifics? Is it because it's all classified?
Because this is currently under review by the National Security
Because
Council.
it's all classified? If it's not classified, share the text now.
As the White House previously
Is it
stated,
classified or non-classified information on this text?
I can confirm.
Director Radcliffe, were you on the group chat?
Senator, I was on a Signal messaging group.
So you were the John Radcliffe on that chat?
I was.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can I provide some context, Senator, to that?
Yes, but I've got a series of questions.
But I think it's important because at the outset, you made a couple of comments about Signal messaging using encrypted apps. So that we're clear, one of the first things that happened when I was confirmed as CIA director was Signal was loaded onto my computer at the CIA, as it is for most CIA officers. One of the things that I was briefed on very early, Senator, was by the CIA records management folks about the use of Signal as a permissible work use. It is. That is a practice that preceded the current administration to the Biden administration.
Director Radcliffe, I've got a series of questions. If you're making the statement, the Signal is a secure channel.
No, can I answer that? It is.
I've got a series
encryption. So
I understand
It is permissible to use to communicate and coordinate for work purposes, provided, Senator, that any decisions that are made are also recorded through formal channels. So those were procedures that were implemented. My staff implemented those processes, followed those processes, complied with processes. And finally, just please. So my communications, to be clear, in a signal message group were entirely permissible and lawful and did not include classified information.
Okay, Mr. Senator, maybe if you would just stop talking, maybe she could give you a straight answer. But I digress. This dude's just trying to make a name for himself right now. He's just trying to be, look at me, I'm gonna get you guys. I'm gonna get Trump. I'm gonna get Trump's administration. He's trying to play gotcha right here, but the only thing he's got is this freaking tax thing. Seriously, this is the biggest thing that Democrats have got right now against us. Seriously, pretty sad. Here's some more wins for all you freedom-loving Americans out there. Trump's trade and tariff plan are paying off, y'all. Hyundai said yesterday that they're putting $20 billion into the U.S. That includes $5.8 billion for a new steel factory in Louisiana. Oh yeah, keep on winning. Just love all these wins, y'all. Check it out.
Today, I'm pleased to announce an additional $21 billion in a new investment over the next 4 years, our largest U.S. invest ever. A key part of this commitment is our $6 billion investment to strengthen the U.S. supply chain from steel and parts to automobiles. We are especially excited about Hyundai Steel's multi-billion investment in a new facility in Louisiana, which will create 1,300 American jobs and serve as the foundation for a more self-reliant and secure automotive supply chain in the U.S. too. And this week, also, we're proud to open our new $8 billion plant in Georgia. With this, our U.S. vehicle production will exceed 1 million units per year, as President mentioned. Our decision to invest in Savannah, Georgia, creating more than 8,500 American jobs, initiated during my meeting with President Trump in Seoul in 2019. That's right. Yeah, and after that, 2020 in Davos, I mentioned about the new plant. American Jobs was initiated at the time. Now, as we proudly mark the completion, this transformative project coincided with the beginning of President Trump's second term. This moment even more special. Yeah. Furthermore, HMG will purchase $3 billion worth of U.S. LNG to support America's energy industry and enhance our energy security. All of these efforts will accelerate the localization of our supply chain in the U.S., expand our operations, and grow our American workforce.
So much winning, folks. That's thousands and thousands. That's, in my calculation, over 15,000 American jobs, all thanks to Trump's tariffs. Thank you, Donald Trump. Trump is bringing back Made in the USA, baby. This is his top goal, along with fixing immigration and stopping the mess of American jobs going overseas, which has been happening for the last 40 years. In just the past 60 days, over $1 trillion in new investments have been promised to come back to the USA. Apple said they're putting $500 billion into expanding manufacturing and moving their plants back into the USA. I guess those factory workers that make iPhones in China don't have to commit suicide anymore. Nvidia announced over $200 billion. Eli Lilly is investing $27 billion to start making drugs here in the USA. Johnson & Johnson is planning $55 billion investment announced yesterday to grow US manufacturing and bring it back to the States, along with tons of other companies. All of this is happening for one reason, y'all, and it's because of the tariffs. If you appreciate my video, then perhaps I earned a like and a subscription. We're pushing for our first 1,000 subscribers here. I truly appreciate it. Thank you.